Hi, this is a video about as if, Tolman, operational behaviorism, and a little bit on description and explanation. So I'm wearing a shirt today from California, but because I don't have a better one, I've put in UC Berkeley / Tolman there. Tolman worked at Berkeley. It still is kind of an unusual place to work where people have maybe different ideas than others. So this topic is about that, ultimately because Tolman managed to indirectly get psychology to adopt this scientific approach of operational behaviorism. Okay, first, a little bit about as if. So as if is not a cultural expression from the movies, like this.
Ew! Get off of me! As if.
We're using as if here in a scientific way. So let me start us off with this example here.
We see some people, and you might say that they give the appearance of expressing, something about maybe their psychological states or something about psychological processes going on inside of them. Of course, we don't know, but let's play along for a moment. Just for example, over there on the right, you might say that this woman appears to be horrified, or maybe at least she's in some kind of state of disbelief. This guy in the back here seems to be confused. This man up front appears to maybe have some other kind of stuff going on for him. He's angry or dismayed, or maybe he's just judgy. And then the woman over on the left is repulsed. She is exhibiting repulsion, we might say. Well, of course, we don't know for sure what these people are actually feeling, right? We're not them. We're not inside of them. Emotions are subjective and private. We don't know for sure what their internal mental states or processes are really like. And of course, in this initial example here that I'm showing, no one should be surprised by this at all, because of course this is all staged. These people are literally on a stage and they are acting in some emotional way. For those of you who might not recognize this, this is a screen from the production of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. So, in fact, these people are very unlikely to have real, genuine experiences of horror, disbelief, confusion, anger, dismay, or repulsion. They're acting that way. So this is a very clear distinction, right? We say these people are acting as if they have those emotional experiences, but in fact they really don't, at least not in a way that's true to them once the scene ends.
Okay, so outside of the theater and in everyday life, I think we actually do forms of, we could call it attribution, often with other people. We see someone and we say, wow, she's really angry. She is upset. She's mad. Or he is so happy. Or that little boy was very brave or courageous. Or he's just very mindful of the people who tell him what to do. And in point of fact, we never really know for sure whether those attributions are accurate. We infer them very casually, very loosely, based on the stuff that we witness just in our everyday lives. We do this with each other oftentimes, right? We just make a judgment based on maybe the look on someone's face. We know them really well, and we say, oh, geez, yeah, you must be feeling this certain way. When in fact we're, again, not inside of them, and we don't really know what it's like. for them to be that way. So when we think about the science aspects of internal states, like Tolman said, we have to be careful. We really shouldn't say, she's angry, he's happy, the little boy is brave. We should say something more like, she seems to be angry, he appears happy. The little boy acted as if he was very brave. And you see, you can use that as if in each of those cases there, right? She behaved as if she's angry. He behaved as if he's happy, and so on. And in psychology, we say, oh, there's all these different internal states and processes, like some of these from the theater set, but also lots of other ones, right? Thinking, memory, perception, and these others. I put learning up there too, because of course Tolman was a learning theorist, and a lot of these careful systematic ways of thinking about behavior and intervening variables come from the behaviorist tradition in psychology. So, as it turns out, in psychology, we have to make very careful distinctions between everyday conversations or dynamics, right, among people, and science approaches. So we have to make distinctions between intervening variables, the inner world, and behavioral reactions, the outer world. Remember, going way back to Galileo, there was this concern about the inner and the outer world are different, right? Galileo said that subjective stuff should be out of science. Well, here we are in psychology. We're stuck with it. We're stuck with subjective states. They're largely the subject matter of psychology, right? Remember Helmholtz and the disharmony that he talked about, right? Remember 2 eyes plus a brain, that's awesome, but 1 eye, it's not worth 2 cents. He was concerned about the disharmony between the inner and the outer world. Well, operational behaviorism, of course, gives us a way to handle this. There's tremendous value in this, right? We say we conduct research in which we select or manipulate or in some way arrange environmental conditions. We measure behaviors resulting in data. Those data can be used to make inferences about intervening variables. It might be, in fact, that intervening variables, for many psychologists, this is the case, I think. Intervening variables are of greatest interest, but we don't study them directly. We study them indirectly by arranging conditions. This can apply to any sort of research method, not just experiments. We measure something, almost always in behavior. Think about your Connections 4 assignment that you completed recently, where you found a research article in which no matter what the researchers were really interested in, they were measuring something in behavior. They operationally defined it. So conditions are set up, behaviors are measured, those are converted to some kind of data, almost always numbers. They're analyzed in some way, and then there are these sorts of careful science judgments that are made called inferences. And the inferences are made about intervening variables. Intervening variables like thinking, memory, perception, jubilation, motivation, decision-making, craving, anxiety, depression, disappointment, pride, courage, and others, like we saw from the theater clip there. So we say a person or another animal behaved as if they had some intervening variable process going on. And we make very tentative inferences about those intervening variable processes themselves by basing those inferences on the behavioral reactions that we collect and analyze. I also wanted to point out that this whole conversation can map onto the description-explanation distinction. Focus on the part of operational behaviorism about behavioral reactions. Okay? those are almost always in the realm of description. We say, that boy walked across the wire at a certain altitude and acted in these other ways. We're describing his behavior. You do a complex study on anxiety, studied under various conditions, maybe comparing controls to experimental conditions, maybe looking at treatment approaches, collect a lot of data, and only after doing all of that very carefully, perhaps make an inference about how much anxiety clients are still experiencing at the end of a clinical trial study. So we describe a lot about the behavior of people under those circumstances. And then maybe if we're able to make some careful inferences about intervening variable processes, then we're over into the realm of trying to explain. We say, oh, she was angry, or he was happy, or they were anxious because. Right? And as soon as you hear something about because or the reason for those intervening variable processes, then it's just, we're into explanation, tentative explanations, right? We say, well, maybe anxiety is caused by or contributed to a number of factors in a person's life, okay? We only come to tentatively putting up those possible explanations by collecting a bunch of data using operational behaviorism as a scientific approach in psychology, almost always. That seems the way to be the way that it is. Thanks for watching.